Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Demystifying Cannabis. Discover the truth about the profound physical, emotional, and spiritual healing of this ancient plant medicine. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I think today is a very important day because cannabis has too often been in a category of like, oh, some judgment or maybe misuse or sometimes glorification in a way that may sometimes be ungrounded. And I think the truth is about cannabis, it's a very powerful ally, but if we use it with wisdom. And we're going to get to explore how this plant can be a real ally on our path of healing and growth and evolution if we're really approaching it with a lot of wisdom and understanding. And we're going to be here with Dr. Pepper Hernandez. She's the founder of the Cannabis Holistic Institute and brings a lot of expertise in this area. And our team has been super enthusiastic about working with her as well. So I think we're in for a treat. So Dr. Hernandez, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Stephen, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Great. Well, we're going to dive deep today and get a lot of great information and actually a guided practice as well. But we're also going to have a brand new program with Dr. Hernandez, and I'm going to shift to Pepper after a little bit. But it's called Cannabis Wellness Demystified: Plant Wisdom for Profound Physical Healing, Emotional Balance, and Soul Alignment. So we'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So Pepper, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey, particularly not just on the professional side, which you have obviously have stellar credentials, but a little bit about on the personal. Why devote so much of your life and energy to really demystifying cannabis and highlighting and bringing forward its healing properties on multiple levels?
Well, honestly, Stephen, it has been a journey. The whole entire journey from being a science and mathematics teacher to being a naturopathic wellness physician in my community to coming to the world with my own specific ailments, disease, and discomfort. And that's really where the journey is finding out what works best for me and what I was deficient in, vitamins and minerals, which herbs helped me. And so through that journey, it brought me to cannabis. Luckily, I was in a community that was very open to cannabis. I was very much immersed in the growing culture of cannabis in Northern California, Humboldt County. And I had a few ailments and discomforts that I was wanting to look at cannabis for. That started a very deep dive over a decade ago. And so a lot of this content that I have gathered, that I have shared with clients and students and family members and friends, is really from that personal journey, that personal education I was doing for myself to heal my nervous system, to heal my cancer scare, to heal my endocrine system and glandular system, and really coming to cannabis with that holistic approach. I was already a raw foodist. I was already juicing kale and spinach. I was already doing my smoothies. I was already doing all those things. So I wanted to utilize cannabis in a non-psychoactive way and see if the benefit was equal or better. And what I found was it was actually better in the way that I was using it by juicing cannabis and adding it to my smoothies. So that opened a huge space for me to do that research that I had not found anywhere. So I was doing it on my personal self, I was doing it with clients, and I was doing it in the research sector.
That's great. Well, I think it might provide some good, useful context, a little bit of the wider story of cannabis, how it's been kind of used historically, different cultures, indigenous cultures in the East. It's like there's a lot that people aren't necessarily aware of how much it's been seen as a medicine plant.
Absolutely. That is the fundamental basis of why I had no problem utilizing cannabis. I have did the research, I've done the research, I've looked at the history, I've, interviewed people, I've really dug into cannabis in different cultures and indigenous cultures around the world prior to, it kind of becoming have a stigma in the US, if you will. But it has been used for medicine for generations. And it has been utilized even in our country, in the States, at the United States. It was used, and we're seeing medications, and I won't name all of them, but we're seeing medications that mimic or utilize cannabis cannabinoids in order to benefit the nervous system. So not only has it been used for indigenous tribes historically, it is still being used today for practical medicine.
Hmm. So you mentioned cannabinoids. One of the things that like kind of blew me away when I first learned it is that we have a natural endocannabinoid system. It's also connected with like mother's milk and breastfeeding. And so maybe share a little bit about how we're actually wired to kind of work with this plant in a very interesting way.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. The endocannabinoid system, I believe, is just like all the other body systems. So we're taught that there's 11, 12 body systems, but I believe there's even more than that, including the endocannabinoid system. And it's just not as researched or looked at when we're, going through medicine, basically. The endocannabinoid system itself, what I found, and I believe is true, is that when it is saturated with cannabinoids. Now, by the way, Stephen, cannabinoids come from other plants too, not just cannabis. But
Hmm.
in this conversation, we're going to focus on cannabis. When the endocannabinoid system is saturated with cannabinoids, it creates what we call a balance, homeostasis, if you will. And when that is nourished fully, then our other body systems, like the nervous system or the muscular system, those can then benefit from that homeostasis. And we have a better opportunity to heal those other body systems, in my opinion.
So it's kind of upstream. It's almost like harmonizes all of the systems in your body.
I feel that way, yes.
That's interesting. Can you share a little bit about how that works downstream? So it can benefit specific, like you said, a cancer scare or whatever. So it's going to help to harmonize the immune system and help with the cancer. Is that maybe share a little bit about how that downstream effect then happens?
Well, I can speak to myself and my experience. And with my cancer scare, it was in the glandular system and reproductive system. So what I chose to do was choose cannabis cultivars, specifically non-psychoactively juicing, to make sure to um, kind of balance my endocrine system, balance and repair and nourish my reproductive system, as well as the endocannabinoid system. How did I do that? Well, I chose terpenes and cannabinoids that were going to be best for those body systems. And so while I was doing, juicing cannabis for my endocannabinoid system, I was also researching which cultivars that have the terpenes and cannabinoids, cultivars being the type of cannabis, best suited those particular body systems as well. So it was kind of a win-win situation when I could get the right combination.
Hmm. So you've been really emphasizing this sort of the non-psychoactive. How much do you sort of recommend that this people like really focus in that direction towards the non-psychoactive properties and healing properties versus like the benefit of also working with the psychoactive side?
Stephen, this is each and every person's individual choice. Now, there is nothing wrong with psychoactivity. There is nothing wrong with healing chronic pain with a very high THC topical or edible or something like that. That's totally fine. I have a lot of experience in that realm, helping people there as well. But my angle has always been raw, organic, homegrown, pro cannabis space. And when it comes with raising your own plants and growing them in soil that is regenerative, when you get to that place, you recognize that those fresh plants, that is medicine. And so I really encourage anyone at all, even if you didn't want to use cannabis psychoactively, you don't have a chronic issue or you're not suffering from, anything that would really cause you to be out of alignment of, imbalance and wellness, to add even just juicing a few leaves a day into your smoothie for wellness as maintenance.
That's really cool. So when you're it sounds like the actual act of cultivating in a more holistic and intentional way is also part of that establishing a deeper relationship. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
For me, it is. I know not all people have accessibility to that. I know not all people have a garden space or a porch patio that they can grow. I know not all people are in spaces where it's even legal for them. And that's when I would encourage even growing hemp. Hemp leaves could do the same thing. But if you do have the accessibility, if you are open to that, even if you're not a gardener, utilizing that relationship with that cannabis plant can be so profoundly healing in so many ways. I mean, we're humans, cannabinoids, terpenes in a cannabis plant is meant for healing. It's just such a deeper connection there. And I really feel like, just for me personally, I love growing plants in general. I love regenerative farming. I love organic farming. I love being conscious about my food and my intake. It's just very, very important for me to go from seed to flower, that whole entire that whole entire growth process by using organic fertilizers and just knowing where my, leaves are coming from,
Mm.
knowing where that flower is coming from. It's important for me. I don't think that everyone has the accessibility to it, but if you do, I would encourage you to, grow your own and look into that process, even if it's just a couple of plants.
hmm So it sounds like a lot of people, in terms of what kind of cultivar they might look for, you want to do some balancing of the non-psychoactive and the psychoactive, and then also looking for certain cannabinoids or terpenes. Can you get a little bit more detailed about how people might look for the right cultivar to fit their particular situation or
This is
challenges?
my favorite question, Stephen. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm so excited. This is my favorite question of all time. I love this one. So, cultivation and cultivars, when we look at cultivars, that just means different types of cannabis plants, right? So, we have lilies, and they may express themselves orange or yellow or sunburst, right? That's all that's they're still lilies. So the same thing goes with cannabis. It will express itself in different ways, being different types of cannabis or different effects because of the terpenes and the cannabinoids that are within that plant. Now, any plant that you grow can be psychoactive or non-psychoactive. The only difference there, Stephen, is the heat. So you can grow a plant, and as long as it doesn't reach, 240, if you don't heat it by adding fire or baking it, right? Or even putting it in your skillet with, a pasta or something, if you're not doing that with it, like you would cook basil, right? If you're not doing that, it doesn't become psychoactive. So you can eat it raw and it's non-psychoactive. So what I encourage people to do is look for the right cultivar for them by utilizing the importance of the terpenes and the cannabinoids. It's going to work best for your body system, and then start growing that. But no fear there, because it can be psychoactive or non-psychoactive. But the cultivar information is incredibly important. And before you even start growing, I think that that's the first question that people should have, because if not, it's 2 years of maybe possibly growing something that is not the best benefit for the body
Mm.
system you're trying to heal.
Yeah, maybe give a little bit of more about like what kind of cannabinoids or balance of terpenes. What are some of the things you might be looking for in terms of a cultivar if you, yeah, just analyzing that.
Sure. So again, every person's body is so incredibly different. And so this question is a great question, but each person is going to be looking for something different. It's not a one size fits all kind of situation. So that's why it took me over a decade, probably, to go down these rabbit holes to figure out what was best for my nervous system. Now there's more education out there, and I write tons of articles. But for example, the nervous system. If you're wanting to heal your nervous system, a cannabis plant that expresses itself in a regenerative, atmosphere with a high CBN and CBD cannabinoid combination plus something like a linalool, which is a terpene that if you think about the smelling lavender, that calming smell, that is linalool. That's a terpene. So if you're going to heal your nervous system, you would look for a cultivar that had a combination of those three things. Now, see, it's not simple,
Yeah.
but it's quite fun, or well, I like it. I'm kind of a geek about it. But it is different for every single person. So it's a fun little game to kind of match up.
Do you also advocate using things like muscle testing or intuitive reading to kind of get a sense for which plants might have a sort of a natural energetic resonance with you?
I've always used muscle testing for everything, honestly. Um, I would encourage people to get in touch with their intuition. The best way is if you're going, this isn't just a fun example, if you're going to a dispensary and you don't want to muscle test each one of the things that are out there, if you could open the flower to smell a cannabis flower, your nose is going to tell you in a body reaction what is good for you and what might not be good for you. Now, if you don't have the accessibility to do the smell, so you're using your five senses, you don't have the accessibility to do a muscle testing, you can just sit presently and try to intuit which one of those plants will work best for you. And that works with all things, everything in the botanical world, not just cannabis.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, we often go down a lot of rabbit holes at Shift and go deeper in, and there's quite a number of people who've taught about like really directly communing with and developing, reciprocal relationships with the consciousness behind different plants. And I'm wondering if like you want to share anything around that in terms of how to relate to the sort of the being behind cannabis, if you will.
Of course, cannabis was not something that um, I immediately searched out. It wasn't something I thought I was going to really step into. It called to me. It healed me. It had me come to it and form a relationship. And I think all plant medicine does this. And I think when we gravitate towards a specific plant medicine and we feel positive about that, I think there's the first indication that you are walking with the plant medicine that heals you. And coming in contact with any plant medicine that you choose, cannabis in this situation, taking meditation with that, focusing, bringing it into your journey. The universe shows you by bringing it into your reality already. Like if someone's listening to this right now, it's in their reality, right? And so that's just part of it. But then bringing yourself into a space with that plant. And you can do that without having your hands on cannabis at all.
hmm What is some of the, it might be great to have an example of some like higher guidance that has come through as a result of that kind of more meditative resonance building with the plant in your own journey.
There are so many. I don't know how to choose just one. Um, I think, I've got so many stories, enough stories to fill up 2 hours, Stephen. And so that's probably not the best question for me because I will tell you all of them. But I think one of the most important ones that really come in was when I did find the cancer scare and I was going into deep meditation. I was doing all of the work prior to really utilizing cannabis in a juicing way. I was doing somatic therapy, I was doing chakra healing, I was meditating, I was doing Kundalini yoga, I was eating right, I was doing all of the things. And I sat um, with my reproductive space and just asked what that looked like, what medicine would be healing. And the cannabis plant herself, she came in, and I thought, okay, this is the journey I'm going to go on. And I knew at that time, by the way, let me let you know, I was full-time, naturopath in my community. I was doing a very heavy load. I was seeing clients in my office who were suffering from the same thing I was just being diagnosed with. And so I was unable to do that in a psychoactive manner. And so when I sat in that meditation, I asked her, I can't utilize you in the way that I think that people are utilizing you, right? Which is a very heavy dosage, very concentrated method. And she just came in in that moment, I could see juicing. And so, just getting in touch, just asking, that medicine comes right through for you.
Hmm. I'd love to ask you a little bit about how to integrate cannabis into different aspects of your lifestyle. I love that you were mentioning sort of working with other mind, body, spirit practices with it. So just paint a picture of how it becomes kind of a very holistic, integrative kind of plant medicine to work with.
Well, cannabis specifically is very much whole body for many reasons. If you utilize it to feel a little altered through a yoga state, that can be very healing for emotion, right? If you're utilizing it in the way I utilize it with this 5 leaves a day, for just health benefits, just, really maintenance, long-term maintenance, that can be a very physical way. Mentally, emotionally, those cannabis can be used in a ton of different ways for that. Wellness in general with cannabis. Cannabis is so, well, just like any other plant medicine, cannabis is so broad in its functionality. Topicals, tinctures, juicing. You can smoke it, you can eat it. There's so many different ways, and not all ways work for that particular person. But working with cannabis and finding which way, which method she wants to work with you, that is very powerful.
Hmm. Since I know a lot of people work with the more psychoactive varietals, I just wonder if you can comment a little bit on anything you've seen around sort of like right amounts of that, because my perception is that some doing that can be incredibly beneficial, but then I see other people cross a certain threshold and then it becomes more addictive. And is there any sense of like when is it sort of most kind of optimized and productive, as versus like when does it become more of a habit that people go unconscious with?
I don't work with a lot of people who are on the maybe the end of the spectrum who are addicted or abuse cannabis in any way. I haven't found that.
Mhm.
Luckily, that is not in my sphere or in my circles.
Oh,
I
great.
don't see that because I'm more on the research end of that. But to answer the first part of that question, every person is so individualized. And this is an individualized medicine. And
Hmm.
so utilizing, and I always say, go slow, start small and go slow. Meaning, if you are interested in having a little alteration and you don't know which cultivar that you want to gravitate towards, and you want to have just a small, you could just do a micro puff, right? Really, just that. If you're very sensitive to cannabis and you want to try adding it to your juice, just 1 leaf, right? Just a very small amount. So I always encourage people to go very slow and start very small. So that's the place that I'm in, and that's the type of circles and clients who come to me as people who are just wanting to begin. They're
Mm,
just wanting to see what it could do, just wanting to see a small amount of the benefits.
beautiful. Well, I know you were also going to take us into a bit of a meditative process to connect more directly with the cannabis plant and get some guidance for our own healing journey. So I think now would be a great time to do that if you want.
Do you want to do that? Are you going to do
Yes.
it with me?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm just going to ask everyone to bring their eyes to a close and place your feet on the floor if you can. Unless you're sitting down on the ground, that's great too. Just going to be aware of our breath and bringing our hands and palms down to wherever's comfortable. In this moment, there is nowhere to go, nothing to do. I'm just being here present with your body. A nice inhale And exhale. And taking a moment to make yourself even more comfortable with another inhale and exhale. I want you to go into your mind's eye, or if you can just visualize, I encourage you to choose a space. We're going into a nice wooded space today. You may see a redwood forest or a nice lush jungle, or you may even see a meadow with mountains in the distance. Wherever you are, look around, recognize it is just you. There may be animals or plant presence. We're just taking the time just for your own healing. The next breath, we're just going to take a few steps around in this new space that you're cultivating. You can feel the earth beneath your feet. That's soft and gentle. As we walk around, I encourage you to search out a little spot that you will be sitting in. It'll call to you. It'll open. If not, that's okay. Just choose whatever you feel. And if your body is willing, go over and sit cross-legged, wherever feels good. While you're here, we're going to focus on our breathing, inhaling in, just gently, no pressure. And exhaling. I'm going to feel the ground beneath your body. Hear the sounds around you. Feel the breeze just gently on your face. No beaming sun, just perfect amount of shade from the trees above or around. I want you to look down right near your feet, just right where your feet are crossed. If you notice a little seedling starting to emerge from the ground, just gently, happily shifting from seed through the soil into a seedling. It's beautiful, it's there and wanting your attention, allowing it to just cultivate, grow taller and taller now into a plant, taking as much time as you need, as much time as it needs. And it may choose to stay in whichever form it would like, and that's fine. You may see it blossom even further if you are familiar with the cannabis plant. If not, that's okay. Could be just the leaves. Could be growing tall and big and strong now, or it could be just right there in front of you. And as you take a nice deep breath in and exhale, you're allowing that plant to take shape, be present. And all you have to do is listen to the water trickling behind you or around you, paying attention to the birds or the sounds that you hear, all while this plant is expressing itself. And you feel that that plant is at a completion point. You can start to communicate, and no pressure. If you've never done it before, you're just sitting still and letting the plant communicate with you. I'm gonna take a few moments here just to watch. That's all it is just looking. No pressure. The only thing you have to do is sit and observe. If you feel a sense of completion and connection, you can bring your awareness back to your breath. Just a soft and gentle inhale and exhale. Inhaling once again and exhale. I want to remind you this is a place that you cultivate, and you can come back here anytime you choose. She will always be there for you. I'm going to encourage you to wiggle your fingers and your toes, starting to bring your awareness back to your body, sitting in your beautiful home space. And before we leave this meditational space, I want you to just share gratitude with this beautiful greener energy all around you, as well as the plant in front of you, and any birds or plants or animals or water that has come to you for healing medicine. And when you feel a sense of completion, you can butterfly open your eyes and rejoin us here. It would take as much time as you need.
Thank you. That was lovely. Yeah, just it's kind of a tender and sweet plant relationship that you kind of are cultivating there, encouraging us to cultivate.
Yeah. And I do encourage each one of you who join Stephen and I to grab a journal, to take a pause, and write down everything that your experience of those few minutes were.
Hmm.
As we tend to forget some things when it's 10 minutes in or 30 minutes or the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And these little teeny tiny things, if you could just journal them down, or if you're an artist and you're creative, you could draw them out,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you feel. And Stephen the child self loves to do that. So
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. This is kind of opening a new portal for me, the idea of having a daily relationship that's non-psychoactive that sort of could be really very, very beautiful and nourishing. And I can really see the deeper why in everything you're sharing today. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah. So maybe let's talk a little bit about how people can go further because I know you have a wealth of information, scientific, practical, herbal, and psycho-spiritual as well that you can bring forward to people. So let's talk a little bit about the course that you're going to be teaching, which I think is a unique way to be able to access this decade of research and practice that you've done and be able to apply it in a way that really creates a healthy, harmonious, and uplifting relationship, health-wise and otherwise, with cannabis. So, Dr. Hernandez is going to be teaching a brand new program. It's called Cannabis Wellness Demystified: Plant Wisdom for Profound Physical Healing, Emotional Balance, and Soul Alignment. You can find it at the URL healingwithcannabiscourse.com, healingwithcannabiscourse.com. There's no prerequisites for this. It's really just if you're curious, if you've worked with cannabis in some ways in the past, been intuited that it could be beneficial, but have never even tried. It's really helps you get on course to have a really healthy, mutually beneficial relationship. And so maybe share a little bit, first of all, your intentions for the program, Pepper, and then we can go through the modules and give a preview what's coming in each.
I think I have taught cannabis content and everything I have learned and all of my digging, and it continues every year, Stephen, to get more vast, right? There's more and more of it. Um, and I've been doing that for over a decade through the Cannabis Holistic Institute. But my course that I want to share with anyone who is watching, my intention for that would just be to help educate you and um, really debunk any myths that may be around cannabis. There is such deep, profound medicine with cannabis in whatever way you choose to utilize it. And it is literally just like a basil or something you can grow. So I want to kind of help people get pro home grow with the idea. That would be great. And then just educate people. And if they are going to utilize it, what should they be looking for? How can they utilize that for their body systems?
Mm. So module one is called Explore the Foundations of Cannabis Medicine for Informed, Respectful Engagement with this Plant as a Healing Ally.
I think cannabis is a very intense healing ally. It can go beside many different other plants. And when we can consume that, um, we can really find benefit in our wellness. So, this first module truly is talking about how cannabis being an ally is historical, how
Mm.
it's been utilized as a fundamental basis of medicine for a very long time, since the beginning of time. And I really want to share that information with people. So, that's what people are discussing when they think about cannabis.
Module two, Manage Certain Conditions and Symptoms with Cannabinoids, the Building Blocks of Healing.
I think this is a, fundamental module for people who are looking into cannabis, but they're not certain how to utilize that cannabis in their body. And they don't want to go through, 2 years of hit or miss. They want a little bit more education, a little bit more guidance on how to choose the proper cultivation, the proper cultivar, the proper method for their body system. And we're going to encourage people to do that.
Module three, The Power of Terpenes for Better Sleep, Less Inflammation, and Reduced Stress.
We all love terpenes. Some people just don't even know what the terpenes are, but everything has a smell to it. That aroma that the botanical world has, those are terpenes. And so when we think about cannabis, cannabis is no different. It all smells different because of the terpenes. So we're going to be talking about the terpenes, what they smell like, what they taste like, how can we recognize them, what do they benefit, how would they benefit the physical body and different body systems. I love talking about terpenes.
Module four, Working with Herbs and the Endocannabinoid System to Ease Stress, Regulate Immunity, Reduce Pain, and Promote Well-Being.
So we'll be talking about the endocannabinoid system and how to utilize not just cannabis, but other botanical world herbs, so other combinations of things to work with every single body system. So I had mentioned something about nervous system prior and linalool. And so where is linalool going to be found in different plants and how that can couple up with cannabis and actually help the nervous system. So we're going to be looking at the whole herbal sphere.
Module 5, a systems-based approach to cannabis medicine to bring your body back into equilibrium.
So this is again touching on cannabis, bringing your body back into a type of homeostasis to really heal and nourish internally from the inside. And then once we have that as a foundational building block, then the rest of the body systems can start to heal them in conjunction with that. So we'll be talking about how to do that in a non-psychoactive way.
Module 6, understand how different methods of dosage and delivery impact your body so you can avoid side effects.
I think people will really love this one because there are so many opportunities to utilize cannabis, whether it is smoking or eating or using it topical or juicing. There's just an unlimited amount of ways. And we need to be sharing a little bit of education on which way best suits each person. Again, individualized medicine. So some cultivars are better as topicals. For example, Stephen, there is a flower called pineapple upside down. Love that. It smells just like a pineapple. And it is better as if it's grown out and made into a salve. So you put it on topically. So I put it on my hands every single night, non-psychoactive, but it is a better cultivar to utilize for hand salves. So we'll be talking about things like that.
It's truly fascinating. Module 7, integrate cannabis with nutrition, movement, meditation, and herbalism to support your long-term health.
So we'll be doing a much longer meditation, one like I shared with you just now. And then we'll also talk about how to utilize cannabis, either it being a CBD tincture or a raw juicing leaf form, in order to just have wellness and as a maintenance. Some people even consider cannabis as a superfood, and I'm all about superfoods. So it's a possibility that I will be talking about that kind of stuff there too.
That's great. Well, again, there's more detail on each of these modules at healingwithcannabiscourse.com. So in addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions, which is also a great time to ask your questions live of Dr. Hernandez, you're going to get recordings for every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There's weekly exercises and practices you can do at home. There's a Facebook community to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. And Dr. Hernandez has been very generous with multiple extra bonuses to enhance your journey. There's a whole PDF guide on the cannabis terpene handout. Want to share a little bit about that handout?
Yeah, I think when we're sharing that in the module, it's going to be really nice for people to have a visual of a quick glance at these particular terpenes, because there's a lot of terpenes and they all do a lot of different things. And so it's kind of nice to have that as a handout for people to go guide along and see in a quick glance, what's best for which body system they're choosing to heal.
There's also another PDF guide called the Cannabis Cannabinoids handout. I'll share more about that one.
Yes, similar fashion where it is a quick view of which cannabinoids, which we're only going to talk about the top 10 cannabinoids because, Stephen, there are like hundreds of cannabinoids.
Oh, wow.
So we'll only talk about the top 10, but it's a short handout of people that people can kind of glance at and look at the different cannabinoids. So when they're choosing a cultivar that they want specifically for their discomfort or disalignment or disease or disailment, they have something as a reference.
Great, super helpful information there. And then there's one special bonus folks get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. We like to do this as a little way to encourage you to tune in and make your decision now and while you have the most information. If you choose to move forward today, you'll receive a special bonus, a 5-part video teaching from Dr. Pepper Hernandez called Microdosing Cannabis Safely. In this series, Dr. Pepper shares a clear and grounded introduction to what microdosing is, how it works, and who it may benefit, along with her top tips for doing it effectively and safely. It's a powerful complement to your cannabis education, designed to help you explore this practice with confidence and care. Thank you. Want to share anything more about that special bonus folks get today?
That's a little more dialed in. So it's advanced information, which if you're really a geek like I am, you're going to value that one. We will be talking about the combinations. So the cannabinoid terpene combination in which cultivar best suits each body system. I love that. It's fascinating. I've dedicated a lot of my life at this point to that.
Well, that's a great extra reason to sign up right away. So it's really going to be an amazing program. I think it's so important for a medicine like this that has been had so much cultural energy around it, pro and con, just to like have it demystified and really focus on how does this really uplift humans, better our health, and optimize our whole relationship really with the natural world. So you're really doing a great service, and we're so grateful for having this program. We've kept the investment for it really very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start July 8th and run Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings and the transcripts in the community as well. Some beautiful testimonials on the page about Dr. Hernandez. Really, so many great people saying wonderful things about your work. So thank you, Dr. Hernandez, for all you've done to advance this field, and anything that's still on your heart that you want to share with folks who are considering whether to join you in the course.
Well, Stephen, first, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure spending time with you. And for those of you who are thinking about maybe coming and spending some time with me, I would absolutely love it. I think we're going to have a great time together. I am known for doing a lot of meditations and a lot of homework assignments and going on little tangents and stories. So it's going to be a wonderful 7 weeks.
Great. Well, you're such a warm emissary for this work, and clearly very knowledgeable, and this is really a great service you're doing. So thank you, Pepper, for your time. Thank you all for joining, and many blessings to all of you. And we look forward to seeing many of you in the upcoming course. And again, all the details are at healingwithcannabiscourse.com, healingwithcannabiscourse.com, and you'll get that special bonus when you sign up by midnight tonight called Microdosing Cannabis Safely.